Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'd like to call to order the Potter County Commissioners Court, November 24th, 2014. It's 9 a.m. We'll start this morning. I'm going to step out of my comfort zone a bit and lead in prayer, and then we'll have our pledges. Almighty God, we thank you for today, a day you have made. This week of Thanksgiving, we want to remember all the things that we are thankful for. Thank you for the freedoms that we have, and thank you for the young men and women who have fought over the years to make sure that we do have those freedoms. Well, thank you for letting us live in the United States and the panhandle of Texas. Thank you for all the Potter County employees and for all the things that they do to serve the people of Potter County. I'd like to thank you for the talents that you have given each of us. Like your help in reminding us that those talents should be used to serve others and not to promote ourselves or our cause. Now we ask that you give us patience and wisdom to make the decisions today that are pleasing in your eyes. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To honor
the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, the first item of business this morning is the approval of the minutes from November 10th, 2014 and November 17th, 2014 Potter County Commissioners Court meetings.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that we accept the minutes as presented. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Item 2, vouchers. To consider and act upon the approval of the payment of vouchers processed by the County Auditor's Office for the period of November 5th, 2014 through November 18, 2014. Entertain a motion.
Second for discussion.
Been moved and seconded that we approve the vouchers. And I might just say that these are checks 159099 through 159337 and wire number 462 through 471, a total of $2,197,998.48. Okay, we have a motion. Second on the floor.
$978.
What did I say? Okay, excuse me. Any discussion?
I have two questions for the court. Page 3 of 36, check number 159143, the last line item on that page. Dumas Police Department, $13,000 participation share. Can you help me understand what this is?
Yes, that was
That was their participation in a gambling investigation.
So it was forfeiture money that.
Yes, that's correct.
You got me. Okay. The final question I have is page 20 of 36, wire number 462 to HSBC Business Solutions in the amount of $194.94, Bluetooth keyboard and mice, and it's slated for the IT department. Is there a need for a Bluetooth device?
Yes, we've got some thin client technology that we're researching, and actual little devices that you plug into a monitor that makes them into thin clients. And the only way to connect to those is Bluetooth mouse and keyboard. So this is actually for 3 of them, so 3 keyboards, 3 mice.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion to pay the vouchers, signify by raising your hand. Those opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Item 3 is a budget amendment. To consider and act upon budget amendments for the 2013-14 fiscal year and current 2014-2015 fiscal year.
This first amendment is basically the cleanup for the end of the year, covering any overages that we had. And then we got a single sheet of the county and hot check run to the part-time position. And the office out of hot check, please.
I'll second the motion. It's been moved and seconded to approve the amendments for both the 2013-2014 budget and the 2014-2015 budget. Yes.
I do have a couple of questions. Carrie, you indicated there's a new position in here?
Well, the position is already budgeted, and it's on the single sheet, and it's funded, it will be funded out of the hot check. Fund 255.
Okay. And so we're moving from the fund balance to the salary line item, is that right?
Correct, salary and fringes.
And will that position be maintained, or will that just be absorbed in the budget, year to year, I guess next year?
Well, it depends on the hot check operations.
Right.
You're needing someone to catch them.
And just to confirm, we approved an additional clerk during budget session, a new FTE? I don't remember those discussions, so I'm just,
No,
that was.
it was discussed last year for a compliance
Right, that was,
person, but they
this is
absorbed.
a different, this is not the compliance position that was.
so will you help me understand this position since it's a new employee to the county?
Yes, it's, for the last few years, we have downsized, the hot check office. However, the workload hasn't downsized the way we anticipated in making the downsizing in terms of staff. And so we're seeing backlog, we're seeing some potential dissatisfaction from merchants, so we're adding another part-time position in order to get back to where we're timely handling hot check matters to collect with merchants in the town.
And the funds will come from
Hot check.
hot check, not from general funds.
Right.
And just to confirm though, if there is a lack of funds in hot check, and again, I'm thinking year to year, not necessarily current, because it feels like we're slotted for the current year. But year to year, if the funds lack in the hot check,
Right, then the position.
Comes to general.
Yeah. The positions that are funded out of hot check necessarily exist on the contingency that the hot check fund continues to be robust enough to support the
Okay.
existence of those positions.
okay. And then is there any reason we didn't discuss this during budget as opposed to now?
Well, part of it has to do with the nature of hot check funds. Unlike Chapter 59 forfeiture funds, we historically have not filed a budget specifically with respect to hot check funds because the law doesn't require it. It allows us a certain measure of flexibility in trying to address the needs of that particular area of the office. Again, as I mentioned, trying to predict trends in hot checks has been difficult. Potter County really hasn't followed suit with the rest of the state in that we continue to see hot check business, a little more robust business than other counties, perhaps like Randall County, almost all but eliminated their hot check. So we tend to respond to with hot check funds on an as-needed basis rather than looking forward basis.
So I think also to Commissioner's question, as far as the position being maintained on an ongoing basis, that's probably the more likely that's going to happen. And with the degree of being dedicated as far as the funds out of the high check fund being allocated to ensure that the position is maintained. If it falls below level, it will actually go back into the general fund.
If I understand your question correctly, I think that's right.
I would say you say your head no, but
No, typically, if the hot check fund can't support it, then.
The position just goes away.
Okay.
Right, we would not have the general.
Right, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question.
Okay. And then the position being presented is part-time with the $34,123, that dollar amount, part-time.
Any other discussion, questions?
I just have one more question. On page 3 of the attached document, I see some increases. Looks like DA payroll fund, DA for release fund, and then DA check fund. But the current budget is slated at $0. So I just want to make sure I'm following what the intent is of those.
Correct, these were not budgeted at the beginning of the year, so we need to cover those in the budget. Of course, these are all discretionary funds, under the DA's control, but we didn't get a budget in the year.
And where are the dollars coming from? I don't see to offset that.
Fund balance.
From the fund balance?
So, actually, the DA payroll fund comes from the state.
Okay. And then the general operating expenditures under the check fund, the 260,
It comes from fund balance.
and then the release fund? Same, okay, all right. Thank
When
you.
you say fund balance, you're not talking about our fund balance, you're talking about a different,
Specific to the fund.
specific, yes, okay.
Yes, these are not
I just
intermingled.
want everybody to understand that. Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor of the approving the amendments to 2013-2014 budget and the amendment to the 2014-15 budget, signify by raising your hand. Those opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Insurance report. Is Ms. Hall in here?
No.
Okay, we have the insurance report in front of us. Looks pretty much like we've gotten every 2 weeks, so it's so recognized. Item number 5, treasurer's report, to recognize the monthly treasurer's report. Ms. Jennings, anything you'd like to report?
Good morning.
good morning.
Just want to give you our general fund balance for this morning is 14.1 million. That's our cash available in our general fund. We have 3 million in cedar steel that will mature in January. This is the time of year where funds begin to come in, our tax dollars. Sherry and I become very best friends and work very closely together, and so we're on board with anticipating that. My main focus right now is investments and trying to find a safe place where we can at least earn a little bit during this tax time as the dollars start coming in. So I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up. More than likely, the main thing I'm gonna do is put as much funds as I can, as many, into taxable prime. Now, we had decided a couple of years ago to have about a 25, I think we have a $30,000 balance in prime today. But I'm having a difficult time finding something safe, have liquidity, and be able to invest if investments come available. So I think taxable prime will be our best deal. I know that since we've discussed it in the past, they have cleaned up most of the foreign investments that they have, which made it a little riskier. So it's been consistent at a 10 basis points now for the last couple of years. And so that's where I'm gonna start out with our tax numbers this year. I'll give you a heads up. But on top of it and doing our best, I do appreciate Carrie as well. She's helped me with what resources she's had, and so we're really trying to find us some safe places to put our cash. We have it, nobody wants it. Patience.
That's a strange deal.
It is.
Well, thank you. Appreciate what you do. Item number 6, Potter County projects, to hear a report on various Potter County projects and to take any action necessary. Mr. Gale.
Good morning.
Good morning.
A few items I'd like to address to you, and then I'm gonna have Pat come up here on one item that we're gonna request the Commissioners Court to please take action on. The first one is the Excel Energy retro commissioning. We have Mr. Watts here this morning and through tomorrow. He is the second phase of our retro commissioning project through Excel. He'll be doing the final detail investigation to determine the actual scope of work and what it would cost Potter County if we proceed forward in order to save money with some of our upgrades on some of our building operations. The second item was not highlighted on yours. Dave, do you have anything to address on the fairgrounds issue? No. Okay. Next item is the Fire Station 6 remodel. Currently, I have completed the environmental review on the design. I hope to have all the costs put together to bring to y'all at your next Commissioners Court meeting in order to proceed forward with that project. Next item is the Excel Energy Rebate Program. This was the last of the checks to be received. Excel, they did actually give us funds for the LED lighting that we put on top of the Santa Fe building in the amount of $1,002.30. I'd like to present to you at this time is the Potter County Fire Station 3 project to consider and act on the request to proceed forth with the construction design documents.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We started in October over a year ago now. On January 13th, we brought to y'all a scope of work for the building, which laid out what was going to be entailed in the building as we saw it and what we thought was needed. And we got permission from y'all to go ahead and proceed with that with the architects. We went through the period where we had to buy the land, find land and buy it, and done that. It's cleared now and ready to have a building on it. The architects have returned to us the final schematic of their layout of the building and gave us a proposed cost or opinion of cost of what the building would be. We're coming back now to ask y'all to give us permission to proceed on to have the architects develop all of the construction documents for the building.
I guess I'm a little bit behind this, on this. I thought when last we met, we were going to formulate, certainly have all the court brief individually. And then have a time where we could, I may not make that clear, I'm not sure about it or not, have a committee to scrub what we're looking at as far as what you were bringing back, what you're bringing back to us today. I know that there are also concerns in the presentation over the fiduciary amount of what we're looking at, and we wanted at least I did have an opportunity for a committee of this court, and yourselves and the auditor and those would be a part of that committee to incisively go through there and look and see if we can work that out as far as the actual numbers, because it's certainly numbers that is to a degree more north than we originally were looking at. So I'm not sure if that would be clear or not, but that would be my thoughts. We have an opportunity to look at that more clearly.
I'd be glad to participate as we need to.
members of the court haven't been briefed on the presentation of the numbers. What are your thoughts?
Well, my first thought, of course, was my jaw dropped. But how much can we approve right now anyway? To go ahead with, I guess, if we do that, are we already committing to next year's budget? And are we ready to do that? And I guess that's my question.
At this point, the way I understand the system is, our next step is to go for construction documents. When we get the construction documents, we bring them back to the court and have those approved and permission to go out for proposal or bid, proper word there, for a contractor. And then when we get a contractor, their numbers that come back will be the actual cost of what the building's gonna be. Everything at this point is the opinion of the architect.
You do have the opportunity, if you chose to move forward into construction documents. At the end of that phase, you do have the opportunity to also set on the project once again until you feel that the funds can be allocated in order to continue forward.
And my concern is not so much the future funding, is if, I would agree with Commissioner Church's comment, depending on how we proceed today, it really sets the stage for what the dollar amount is in the future. And again, I would agree with Commissioner Vaughn that it may be prudent to just reset. When I was briefed, certainly the dollar amount times 2 of what was budgeted, so this is $700,000 project. I was very surprised to see the dollar amounts. And what I shared in that meeting is my root concern is that we would be in a position to compromise the inventory or the fleet, if you will, of the trucks in the fire department, which in my opinion, we have made aggressive strides this last couple of years. What I asked Stephanie to include in your packet, and thank you for doing that, is just this inventory, because this is the very first thing that I went to look at after the meeting. Again, to my comment, that we've been making significant strides on the equipment that you guys work with every single day. So I highlighted just a few on here. Chief has come back and made a few corrections, but this is the exact document that I went back to and thought, if we're at budget time next year, what is the fleet that we would be evaluating, and the following year? So in my opinion, if we proceed with this dollar amount, it will be difficult to do both. The dollars would not be there, I would imagine, to offset the budget times 2 and continue replacing the fleet. And so I would agree with the same concerns. It may be warranted to just have a couple of commissioners on that committee, Commissioner Vaughn, to start to look through those dollars and say what is really realistic for this project. Those are my opinions on the follow-up from the meeting. Mr. Kelly?
Sounds reasonable.
What time window are we looking at or concerned that as far as the architects and moving forward and ensuring that we meet the structure as far as the path forward, ensuring that as far as the budget for this year but the following year, and ensuring that we don't get too far as behind the curve as far as the numbers go in the construction.
Right now, the architect's timeline that they've given us shows us coming back to court with the final construction documents the end of March, possibly the 1st of April. And they expect it to take a month to get a contractor, which, if it doesn't take much longer to do that process than a normal major purchase, is probably about right. If they get started, the advantage that we have right now is it puts the concrete work and that type of work during the summer, hopefully, when they're doing it.
Everything was based off of the start date to proceed forward starting in December of this year. The dates that Pat just spoke about is dependent on whether or not we come to an agreement through the design phase. There's many times that these timetables that are presented, they can drag out just a little bit further until we come to a final agreement. It could be possibly 2 or 3 months later.
You know, in general, I hope we don't scrub the project because there's two things in my mind that are going on in our county. One is our population is kind of, at least in the rural areas, are shifting a little bit. And so I see this station as kind of being the center, our central fire station in the future. So there's some need there for some additional things that are on this drawing. And the second is, right now we're keeping so many of our, we have $1.5 million, $2 million worth of equipment in a shed that you wouldn't want to keep too many horses in, burn up. So I don't know, I think we, personally, in general, I want to proceed forward. And if we have to have this committee, I'd give it a timeline and say, can we get back here by the middle or end of June or January and make some decisions?
I think those are wise thoughts, and I apologize for the word insertion of the word scrub. I didn't mean that literally.
Yeah.
More of a massaging of the numbers and what we may be able to do as far as some of the items listed in the project itself. So even though I believe looking at that project and looking at the total picture, it makes sense, but we do have to look at the dollars also forward. So I think we may be in an agreement, pro tem to devise a committee and move forward as efficient as possible.
Are y'all gonna do that in court, or how are we gonna do it?
I think we would,
I would accept a motion to form that committee and name the committee.
I move that we devise a committee, make up of the court and strategic members of this county to come up to look into the project as far as the presentation ultimately to the court. And move forward with the design basis that will ultimately come from this committee and the presentation to the court. Wordsmithing together. Did you get the gist of that?
Yes, we did.
That leaves it wide open. We could have everybody in
Yeah, I don't think, let's see, I guess two members of the commission of the court, along with, facilities and fire department. Fire good. I think the auditor's office would, good along with purchasing. And county attorney.
So this would, let me ask you this just for clarification. So this would be the committee that we could work together as we have on other projects in the past that's assigned to it. And then y'all work with us to bring recommendations back to it.
I think so. I think it makes sense.
So I've got two from the court, Mike, two from the fire department, county auditor, county purchasing, and the attorney.
That's a good fix.
I feel like I need to speak up on that. You may want to have IT involved in this because the connectivity costs out there are gonna be.
It makes sense.
Okay, so that's two from the court, two from fire rescue, auditing, purchasing, county attorney, and IT.
And facilities. 2, 4, 6, 9.
That's good.
Okay.
Did we cover everything? I think we covered everyone that, would be a part of the committee.
I would, do we have a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I second it already?
You did.
Okay, I forgot.
So you did, okay,
We have monitor.
okay, yeah. Thank you. Okay.
I would, okay, we have a motion and a second to form a committee to look into how we should proceed with this fire station and report back to the Commissioners Court. Any discussion? I'd like to see that this committee get going right away, and you would be in charge of calling it together. Just try to get this back to the court as soon as we can. Anything else? All in favor of the motion to form a committee to study this issue, signify by raising your hand. Those opposed, same sign. Pass 5-0.
Who will the court members be?
Myself and,
I'll do it. Give it to you, that's you. No. Good. Was that a drone or what was it? Item number 7, official bonds, terms beginning January 1, 2015 to approve, recognize, or take any other action necessary regarding the official bonds for elected officials as necessary for the following. A, county judge. B, judges, court of law, number 1 and number 2. C, county treasurer. D, justice of the peace. E, district clerk. F, county clerk. Have we got the paperwork on those?
We have and the reason I put this on the agenda, and it's just a good idea to give everybody, we aren't ready to do all those bonds today completely, but, since there's a time frame, it's kind of our way of reminding the elected officials are taking office. The new term, January 1st, they need to get that done, and so, we do have a couple of bonds that we can deal with, and I think we can even set the bonds for all the others that are on that list if you're interested in doing that today. Then we need to talk about special circumstances on the district clerk and the county clerk too. So I guess taking this one at a time, I know we've got the treasurer's bond.
Yes, you just presented it.
And I think we have the county judge's bond on the way.
It's on the way, yes. It's already-
So what we would propose to do is to, first step, I guess, would be to, well, let's just take them separately. On the county treasurer's bond, the commissioners set that bond, and it's, can be an amount up to $100,000. You always set that bond, as far as I know, at the $100,000 limit. And I think that's what Leanne's bond is for. So
Yes.
I think we can go ahead and set the bond amount for that and approve the bond today. We're ready for that.
we need a motion for that?
Yes, please.
I move that we set the county treasurer's bond at $100,000.
Second.
And also we need for approval to set it and to approve it, because we already have it here.
Yeah, we've got that. We've got the bond. If you want to look at it, you're certainly welcome.
Yeah.
It's standard form of bonds.
Set the bond and accept it. Is that okay with your motion?
Set it, okay, approve it, and set it in motion, yes, that's fine.
Is that all right with you, the secretary?
Yes.
Okay. Been moved and seconded that we set the bond for the county treasurer at $100,000 and we approve her bond.
I have just a quick
Approve the
question,
amount and set it.
and this may just be the reading of the bond, are held and bound unto the Potter County judge, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay,
That's-
yes.
yeah, that bond is payable to the county judge. It is almost impossible, it's hard to keep these bonds straight. They all have, every one of them is a little bit different somewhat, but yes, that is payable to the county judge.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed, same sign. Pass 5-0. What other decisions do we need to set?
Step 2 is I would suggest, since Nancy Tanner is in the process of getting her bond, I would suggest you go ahead, that bond needs to be set and approved by the Commissioners Court. And I wouldn't ask you to approve it before you actually have the bond in front of you, but I think you can set the amount, which we have generally set at $10,000.
Yes.
And so we'd ask for a motion to set the bond at $10,000.
I move that we set the county judge for Poly County at $10,000.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we set the county judge bond for that position at $10,000. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, same sign. 5-0. Passes.
Let's talk about the district and county clerks. Under statute, both of those bonds are required, but they have the option to, since we are self-insured for the errors that they would, the same purpose for the insurance, we're allowed to rely on that self-insurance rather than having to get a separate bond. But just to be on the safe side, I would like to recognize that since a new term will be starting. Is that covered pretty well, Julie?
I believe so.
So we can just have a motion that recognizing the option of the district clerk and the Potter County clerk to be self-insured rather than obtain a bond for their next term.
And then we'll actually have the wording for that come back to the court to be recognized the next one.
So do we need a motion on that or just
Recognize it.
just to recognize it?
I think you can recognize that.
Okay, we recognize that the district clerk and county clerk will be self-insured rather than.
One last piece, the county court law judges, both have a bond of $2,500 that needs to be set by the court, and the justices of the peace each have a $5,000 bond that must be set, to be set. And so I would, ask for a motion that bonds for the county court law judges be set at $2,500 and, for the justices of the peace at $5,000.
I make a motion that we set the bond amount for $2,500 for county court at law judges, justice of the peace, $5,000.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we set the bonds for the judges, county court of law, $2,500, and the justice of the peace at $5,000. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Once we get those, once we get those bonds, we will bring those back to approval. Bonds will be approved. And then finally, there's just a reminder, the two commissioners who start a new term in January have $3,000 bond, and those bonds just need to be recognized by the court when you get them. So as you get them, bring them to us, and or bring them to court, we'll put them on the agenda and have them recognized for the record.
And for those of you taking office in January, I do have the oaths and the statement of elected officer, if you want to see them. I'll get those to you.
Okay, thank you.
And they'll take care of us for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Item number 8, replace inoperable scanner in the jury department. To consider and act upon the purchase of a Fujitsu scanner FI6130Z or an FY7160 as recommended by Judicial Systems Inc. to work with the current jury system to replace the current Canon scanner DR6010C PC number 20, Potter County number 2550. The cost of the Fujitsu scanner is about $900 compared to approximately $2,000 to purchase another Canon scanner DR6010C. Funds to come from repair and replacement account.
Yes, I hate to say, but our scanner in the jury department has gone kaput.
Just exactly where it's put.
It's taking in too many pages at a time and scanning them together.
So David, what we typically see is we typically have kind of a bid sheet or some specs on the equipment. Is this to that point yet?
It's not, but 900 is a good figure. I believe we bought from my department for around 880 is what it was. So if you approved a $900 budget, I'd get it for as cheap as I could.
We got this from an Amazon deal.
And there are no budgeted line items that fall under your budget that may offset this? I don't know, I'm thinking stationery and supplies for some reason.
Well, it's higher than the stationary supply limit we would.
Okay. Is there anything that you might recommend? Carrie, I know it's slated for repair and replace account.
And that's kind of why we have that account.
Yeah.
For the stipends.
And what's the amount in that account?
$77,100.
I move approval of the purchase of the stated name that is listed on the agenda item, the amount so noted.
In the amount of,
In the amount of $900.
I'm saying,
Been moved and seconded that we replace the inoperable scanner in the jury department. Any further discussion?
Carrie, do you need the motion to state where it's coming from?
I think we can state what the name of it is.
Well, just the, what account, no, the account, the repair and replace account. Okay, you got it.
It will be done.
It's in the agenda.
Okay. So you got that cleared up from the repair and replacement account? Okay. No further discussion, we will proceed to vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed, same sign, pass 5-0. Tax office refunds, to consider and act upon a tax refund for overpayment of taxes. Xavier.
It's that time of year again.
Busy.
Yeah, people tend to overpay their taxes. Well, in this instance, they paid their 2013 tax amount, so I don't know why. 14 is quite a bit less.
So the tax refund amount is $54.9340.
Yes.
I move that we approve the overpayment of taxes in the amount of $54.9340 and refund that money.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign, pass 5-0.
Thank you.
Number 10, policy updates, to consider and act upon updating policies for county provided uniforms, vehicles, and meals. And, very good. And,
Basically, the county has been providing some taxable benefits to the employees for quite some time, and we have never actually run payroll and had the employees and the county pay taxes on them. We need to start doing that January 1st. And we just submitted a policy that will match what we need to do with the IRS guidelines.
And have the employees that fall under this uniform change, have they been notified that it's now taxable?
The department heads have, and I assume they've talked to their employees.
and it needs to be stressed that this is not coming from us. This is coming from the government. A lot of employees are going to blame us for this, and we need to stress the fact that it's not us.
And just kind of to give you an idea of why we feel like we need to get it done, there have been several counties that we've been audited by the IRS recently, and these types of benefits that were not taxable, they went back and let the county do amended W-2 forms, and the employees had to go back and do amended tax returns. So we would like to avoid that if all possible for our employees.
Is this going to be up to the individual employee to keep track of this?
To keep track of it.
Right.
No, we have a plan worked out with, our vendors and with our department heads and with HR to take care of it.
Is this policy like what we've spoken about through the past?
Yes.
Carrie, are there specifics on that? Because nobody in Road and Bridge has been in on any of the meetings about.
Roger has.
Roger has?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in the office.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, I will make sure we get it.
Thanks you.
is there any discussion or questions from any of the department heads that are here that would like to discuss any of the items that are on this new policy?
If I could get the court at the time, one thing I believe I visited with Kerry about this, just to get it for the record, these taxes that are passed on to the employees, that there's no way that the county could compensate the employee at a later time since we're having these taxes passed. Does that make sense?
You're just gonna compound.
I know, I just want that on the record, because I have
employees that's very upset about this whole issue.
It'll be counted as income either way, so it's gonna be taxable.
Carrie, I do have a question on what the use of vehicles. I know there's 3 policy changes in here. One, the uniform, some travel, and then vehicles. And on page 13 of what you have highlighted, the changes, can you walk through what that change is for the court? Or for me in particular?
Well, basically, those who are law enforcement or first responders, if they are taking a county vehicle from, whether it be at night or for lunch, whatever, then they will be responsible for a value of $1.50 each way, taxable value. So law enforcement and first responders are excluded, but any other, basically, I think it's gonna be road and bridge maintenance, the maintenance, then the detention center agent population.
So if this is someone who takes a county-owned vehicle home, or lunch, etc., that is not a first responder, they would be responsible for $1.50, the commute,
Each way, $3,
a trip?
$3 round trip. That's the value that will be taxed. So they'll pay the tax on $3.
But is that's per trip or per day? How does that?
Per round trip would be $3.
So more than likely what you're gonna have happen is, I don't know if Road and Bridge is gonna do this, but we take our vehicles home for emergency response to represent the county. So are we gonna be charged every time we have to, for emergency response coming back?
Well, would that not be sort of followed into the, as first, not necessarily as first responders, but that's a requirement that?
It's still a taxable benefit.
Are there any legal eagles in here that kind of touch on the subject?
We looked over that, and I'll tell you that auditing did a thorough job of looking through the tax regulations, and it's kind of a intimidating job on its own, and I looked at it myself, and I mean, I think they're absolutely right. It's just that the community just does not fit the IRS exemption.
Well, I just have some great concern that we have employees that are responding to emergencies.
Right.
Well, that's true, but
and then we're gonna charge them for that?
That's not the kind of emergency that the IRS calls a non.
Okay, so.
That is the easiest way to describe it, and it is crystal clear. There is no wiggle room about it.
So can the county inject in here, considering that if that's a requirement for employees, not necessarily as for first responders, but to the degree that they respond in time, and that's, I guess, an element of their job duties, and we're levying that to them, it seems like the county should be able to, in some capacity, help supplement or some degree.
Let's kind of get back to Mike's question. It kind of becomes more, if you do that, then you're adding more income, which will also be taxable. You see what I'm saying? So you're adding even, under IRS rules, you'd be adding even more income on top of that. And so, I mean, basically what the IRS says is, you know something, if you're giving somebody a vehicle to go back and forth to work, a non-emergency person, that's a benefit. That's like salary, because they aren't having to use their own vehicle. And so, that's taxable unless it's an emergency as the IRS defines it, so.
Okay, but if they're being required of that department of which they work for.
We require everybody to come to work, so are you gonna buy everybody their commute? You know, it's,
if they use
you know, where do you draw the line, you know, that's what becomes legally a problem.
I understand.
I see what's gonna happen is we're gonna have a bunch of county employees that are not gonna bring their county vehicle home, and they're gonna use their vehicle, and the response time's gonna be pretty sorry.
Let me ask you this, Could the employee turn around and charge the county for mileage for using their personal vehicle to respond?
And not if you're coming from home to the place of business, it would be just like a commute coming to work.
Yeah.
But if they were, and to your department, Mike, if they were coming from home and going to look at, one of the sites with weather issues, that would be, they're not coming to, the Santa Fe building, they're going to one of the locations to assess the site.
If
Still be
they're going to a county-owned
Okay.
property, that's considered.
It would be helpful to know which departments have, county vehicles that go home with employees. That would be a helpful recap to just have in general.
Facilities maintenance, road and bridge, sheriff's office, and juvenile probation.
Could it also be helpful to have those, particular departments, those employees that would be required to respond compensated as far as their salary or as an element of employment?
You're already
Yeah.
benefit of having a county vehicle to drive.
Yeah.
You're already.
That's part of our.
That's basically what the IRS is saying.
Part of the
You're giving, by giving the county vehicle, you're giving them exercise.
Sherry, have you had a chance to work any figures out what it might cost an individual employee?
Well, you know, the IRS allows what, 55 cents a mile?
I'm not sure what the current is.
Well, figure that out. If that's what you'd be reimbursed if you're gonna reimburse somebody to commute, but.
Why don't you give us an idea?
So
what it might-
$3 a round trip is cheap.
Well, I
It's
did-
cheap.
I did do an estimate on a couple of people, and the one that lives the farthest away, I assumed that the vehicle they were driving was getting 20 miles to the gallon. They paid $2.50 a gallon, and the cost to that person's home and back, just the gas cost would be $4.98, I believe. Tax on the $3 commute was going to be 95 cents.
I had a question about, for the sheriff's office, for the uniforms that the county provides for the employees, since that's law enforcement, is that gonna be,
Your maintenance staff will be the only one that fall under this.
okay, and then what about the meals, is that like the schools, or is that like, picking up and traveling with inmates?
That's pick up and travel with inmates.
Okay,
If
so
there's not an overnight stay, they will be taxed on their per diem.
what about education?
It depends on if they're gone overnight or not.
So if they're overnight, they will not be charged,
Correct.
and if it's,
If it's one day, they will be taxed.
And I realize, Carrie, this is really out of your hands. This is the IRS regulating, and we're just trying to be in compliance. So I know it is a tough conversation, but as employees have questions, just trying to understand where that's coming from.
I think it's just a typo, but on page 2, right under that top graph, it says any meal reimbursement for a seminar or event. Should that be within our county?
Yes, it should be within.
So what policies are changing?
Just on the meals, if you're not gone overnight and you pay like the $12 per diem for that, it should be taxed on that $12.
But if you're within the county, you don't get reimbursed anyway.
we're already paying tax when we buy a meal?
Well, the county is being taxed when you buy them. We're giving you the $12 and you're paying your tax out of that.
But wouldn't it be prudent to think about that, you know, when you travel to Austin or somewhere outside of, maybe in Amarillo, you could get a meal for what the county provides, but you travel to Austin, you travel somewhere else, and that certainly is not, the money is not near enough what it costs for a meal for an employee, and now you're gonna hit them on the head with this tax too.
We're not gonna hit them on the head,
I know
it's not us, okay?
Carrie, you said that when we travel, like for several days or whatever the classes, that will not be taxed or that will be taxed?
That will not be taxed. Say you have to go to Lubbock, you know, fire truck, you leave early that morning and you come back late that afternoon, not lunch. That lunch would be taxable.
So is the record keeping for all this up to each individual office?
No, if you send a request for reimbursement, we'll take care of it.
Okay, what about the
It's our office
vehicles? What about the vehicles?
We do have a log that,
Okay,
that we'll have to keep.
okay.
Wait, you need a motion to approve these policy changes?
Move to approve the policy updates. Is there a second? I second it. Any further discussion? It's been moved and seconded that we approve the policy updates as presented. All in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed, same sign, pass 5-0. Number 11, item number 11, county attorney vehicle replacement. To consider and act upon authorizing the replacement with trade-in of certain vehicles beyond their usual life and authorizing the auditor to make appropriate budget transfers within the hot check and forfeiture funds.
We have, as I understand it, 2 vehicles that have well north of 100,000 miles of having the kind of issues you would expect with a vehicle with high mileage. One of them is used by investigators in the gambling unit, and that will come out of the gambling fund. The other is used by our hot check department to go issue notices, certain ones, I think that will come out of hot check. That's it, man.
Do we have a motion or?
Just a couple of questions in terms of the 2 vehicles. Is it just mileage that, or are they?
They're having mechanical, they're having significant mechanical issues.
And then again, is there a reason we didn't address this during budget as opposed to now?
They weren't having the same kind of they weren't having mechanical issues as before. As, at the time we formulated the budget, we probably were seeing at the time we approved the budget, but not to it.
And then, the agenda item also reads to authorize the auditor to make appropriate budget transfers. Do we know the dollar amount that we're talking about for these 2 vehicles?
Not yet, David is trying to.
No, we didn't want to do this until we had your approval. We haven't even started shopping, because they'll be used vehicles, they won't be brand new, so it's a little different than, we're gonna have to do.
And they are replacement, we're not adding to the fleet, we're
Okay,
gonna
that's
trade
gonna be
in.
my next question.
And where do the vehicles come from?
That's gonna be up to David.
Yeah, we'll shop them out. I mean, we'll go to multiple dealerships trying to see what they have used in their mileage range and whatever kind of vehicle they're trying to replace and get the best of it.
So are we premature with the motion since we don't know the dollar amount of what we're?
Last time we did this 2 years ago, you went ahead and approved it, and I think they may have put a high-end budget on that, and we got it for less than that. I don't know.
I think that coincides with my recollection. I think the idea was.
Can we put a maximum figure on it?
That's fine.
What would be good for you?
What would you suggest, David, for 2
Do
vehicles?
you remember the value on these 2 vehicles?
I believe last time it was under 15,000 a vehicle, if I remember.
I believe that's right.
And you have a sufficient amount in both the gambling and hot check to offset those?
Yes.
Okay.
So you want to maximize it at 30,000, 2 vehicles?
You'll give me 4.
Well, 30 is fine, and then we're also gonna trade in the vehicles they do have, so I think 30 would be plenty.
Well, I would make a motion that we authorize $30,000 for 2 vehicles, and whatever we get back from the 2 that we're gonna sell. Get back.
Commissioner, would you also include to come from the gambling and hot check
Yes.
funds?
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the replacement of 2 vehicles for a maximum of $30,000, money to come from hot checks and forfeiture funds. Any further discussion? We'll vote. All in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed, same sign. Pass 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Number 12, authorizing to open software purchase negotiations. Consider and act upon a request and recommendation from the local data advisory board that the court direct the purchasing agent to begin negotiation with the Texas Conference of Urban Counties, Inc. for the purchase of A, Tech Share Prosecutor, and B, Tech Share Courts for JPUs.
The good news is the, what I call the user subcommittee group of the local data advisory board. We've agreed on some things and then talked to the local data advisory board. We've also been agreed for us to be able to proceed with this tech sheriff prosecutor. It's a package from the Council of Local Counties. The short version is, I hadn't found anybody say anything bad about it. I've talked to people that are actually using it. They're very pleased with the people that are working with him to get it implemented, as well as the program itself. That's the short version. So what Scott and us are asking for today is the ability to for y'all to give David permission to, in earnest, negotiate with tech share at CEC for that package for the prosecutors. And once we get a hard contract and hard numbers and stuff in place, we'll come back and do a dog and pony show about the whole thing, about why it's needed and all that sort of thing.
See any negatives at all with this, Randall? See any negatives at all with this?
For the CUC, Teresa Klingman in Midland, since '05, her and I've been basically sitting next to each other at meetings about this stuff, and they implemented this particular package about a month ago. So it's been up about a month, they're 85% up. And I'll talk to her extensively about it, and she just couldn't find, I mean, she couldn't quit bragging on the people and the program and where it's at. And they operate a whole lot like we do, the same kind of mechanisms, procedure mapping of things through, which oddly enough, Tarrant County, even though it's much bigger than either one of us, kind of did the same thing. So that's where we first started. And what I would say is that them going first is already debugging some of the stuff. Like in other words, we wind up doing the judgments. So they've already got judgments put in the system, and we basically do that. Nearly every procedural step is about the same as what they do. So she's already told me, look, if y'all want our judgments, they just take all that stuff and you just use. So we'll be looking at all that kind of stuff too, but it's helped to have somebody that's already does business kind of the same way we do, that's already involved in it, because it's giving us a good sounding board, and I've got that in the good comments.
What are the costs we're looking at on this project?
There was, if you ask me to give you a rough estimate for the CUC, I'm gonna say it's gonna be somewhere in the neighborhood of $700,000.
700,000, did you say?
That is correct.
We're the ones pushing all the paperwork and all that kind of stuff into it, so, and that's both offices. Both offices.
And I think Judge Jackson has a different program or a different package with a different dollar amount too, just to kind of set the stage for that. That I know will follow you, Randall.
Yeah, that's just the tech share prosecutor. Now if that's with a redaction program included in it, a data extraction, and an OCR, all included into that. Which is basically where you can, OCR is where you can basically word search stuff. The data extraction, we're gonna have to have that because we're gonna have to get stuff from Spillman. We're gonna have to grab stuff from other people, and that's what the data extraction does. Our initial cost estimate didn't include any one of those three things.
Redaction is necessary, particularly on our end, because pro se clients are allowed to come in and look at their files. However, certain information like witnesses, witness addresses and identifying information has to be redacted out.
And then the statute for the Michael Morton Act actually says before a defendant can see stuff, things have to be redacted. So it's quite possible we can start then doing the redaction instead of the defense now is actually required to do that. But we might in some instances start doing that. But the other thing too is both offices get hit with the Freedom of Information Act, requests for items that then we have to, if they get it, there's certain things that we are required by law to delete from the documents.
Could you tell us also about the ownership that we will have in this and
it's
the potential for reimbursement too?
For a farm boy, it's easy to understand. From one farm boy to another, it's a co-op where basically you are a part owner of the business, and you have input directly in regards to that. And what that also then means is there's some capital costs that anyone that buys it after us, we're in a position possibly to get some of that money back. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that's what's gonna happen, but the fact of the matter, there is that opportunity built up into the contract, and then the group, the owners decide, as they do in the contract, whether they're gonna disperse that back into a new program, or they disperse it back into the owners. So that's kind of how that's laid out. What I will tell you is, I'm gonna use some asset forfeiture money on the take share prosecute package too, so that'll cut some of it back.
Will that be part of the presentation, to the court,
Yes, ma'am.
the full presentation?
Once we figure out what all the hard numbers are and stuff like that, then I'll have an idea how much I'm gonna throw out there out of asset forfeiture.
You can throw this out. We have a new judge coming on board in January, and I would like to put this off until she's in place.
I've talked to the judge about that, and she doesn't have a problem with the future judge, and she doesn't have a problem with us going ahead and proceed.
We need to confirm
I had
that.
personally talked to her about that, HR, Commissioner, I'm sorry.
HR's not.
But the white beard fooled me.
Yeah. Fools me too every time I think that.
Carrie, in terms of, I know we've gone through 2 budget cycles prepping for this purchase, or whatever the purchase may ultimately be. What are the dollar amounts that we have tagged, if you will, for these purchases? How much is that?
In the capital projects fund, we have $1.1 million set aside.
1.1 million. And when the court started slotting that money in preparation for the purchase, at that time, the vision was to purchase one software that would work for everything across the county. So the reason I think that's important is obviously we're looking at sections now and departments, if you will. So the cumulative effect, and I know that Judge Jackson will also present in just a minute, just a figure that we may need to be mindful of what's currently out there in the capital funds.
So, let me say, get this clear, yeah, I remember revisiting on those issues and trying to make sure that we keep everything, as close as we could in with the vision of all the county departments. Are you basically saying that, not only what Randall did and County Attorney are presenting and JP will presenting, there's gonna be other presentations such as IT, the Sheriff's Department, and the like?
I would imagine, I know part of what was discussed in the LDAP meeting, and Commissioner Church and I sit on that committee, was potential integration with Spillman. I also spoke with a Midland commissioner who is live on this CUC program, if I'm calling it correctly. They got in on an early stage because of the dollar amount was obviously a concern to me. They do not pay that. He again spoke with some limitations because it does not integrate with Spillman today, and they were struggling with a little bit of that. And they're in a really similar situation of looking at all of their technology purchases and what does it look like for the future. But we do have a Midland commissioner that has indicated they're obviously live on it, have been for several years. He said it works fine. There's some things that he wish it could have been better, but for the most part would agree with the comment of it seems to be working fine for their business needs. But the dollar amount, he agreed, would be difficult even for their court. And Midland obviously has a little bit more financial windfall than we do these days.
Right now.
Right now, today, yeah, budget year by budget year, that's how.
FYI, 1.1 would never cover the whole package in the first place. Wouldn't start to cover the package.
And that leads me to a comment, because I've really spent a lot of time thinking about it, and it reminds me a little bit of our wireless project, and when all of that came to the forefront and inevitably wasn't working, and we had the courthouse ready to go, and a lot of the communication was something to the effect of you have a house, but you can't move into it. It can't work from a technology purchase. I'm wondering if it would do us all well individually, or maybe in groups of 2, to sit in these respective departments and just see it with our own eyes, because this is a significant dollar amount, not only for A, the purchase, but B, to maintain it from year to year. And I would encourage each one of us as commissioners to have firsthand knowledge of what is this really gonna do for the county.
I've had the opportunity to sit through the demonstrations, and it's very impressive. And this is something we've been talking about since I got on the board. And I just think we have to move forward. I don't think that we can continue to push paper and think that we're keeping up with the times and workloads that these departments have, so.
The nice thing about it, if we're moving now on the tech share part of it for the prosecutors, from the time they contracted to the time they went live was a little more than 5 months in Midland. And it's working great, and the people are doing well, and the people that are helping install it are very healthy. The other thing that's fixing to happen by the first of the year, they are going to start using the criminal package for mandatory discovery, or not mandatory discovery, mandatory submissions to the clerks, which is up and running. The e-file, electronic filing, which is already required on the civil side, but Midland is also now going to be what I'll call initial startups of that program so that they can debug it, is happening in Midland also. So by the time that gets through and we would get through, then we should be in position to be trying to get that program also. So we can actually never turn that thing into a complete system, which at some point is going to be mandated anyway. I mean, that is coming as a mandate that we will have to electronically file with the district clerk and county clerks electronically.
And Dave, I'm a little confused on the agenda item. I was surprised that we needed court approval to begin negotiation. Usually, we have seen that kind of happen and then presentation come back to the court.
I'm not sure what your question is.
So the question is, I was surprised to see an agenda item that we need approval to begin negotiation or begin kind of the purchasing conversations, if you will. Often we see that happen already independently as part of the subcommittee, and the commissioners get that back. So I'm not sure if there's a reason for that. I'm just trying to follow that.
I mean, no, I don't think so. I think we're just trying to do one as broad as we could.
And I think we spoke to
Just trying to make sure it's just trying to.
Right, I think we spoke to that in the past, and that may be one of the reasons why they bring it to the court as far as including that step and not jumping over it.
Okay.
Because the concern was from the court.
Throw a big net out.
So another one of my questions to you, Commissioner, is one of the concerns you have is that we're looking at multiple owners?
My concern is that, I'm sorry, just to respond to his question.
You asked it, yes.
My concern is that this is one package, and we're getting ready, and I would ask before we take a motion on the first to really hear Judge Jackson as well and what he's gonna present, and this may not be the end of it. It will not, is a better statement, will not be the end of it. So my concern is that we're looking at the net effect of all the purchases, and the commissioners really need to be diligent about understanding a significant purchase for this county.
We were, I think, just to remind us that we were in the kind of the final throes of putting a contract together last spring. We'd already gone out for RFPs. We knew at that time that package was supposed to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.5 or 2 something. But we were moving ahead at that time. And that was over a 5-year period. So we know that this ain't gonna cost more than 1.1. But anyway, as far as I know, that's where we were when they went bankrupt. And so.
And I'm not so much concerned about the dollar figure I'm hearing, because you're right,
Right.
we've already visited that. But I want to make sure that we're looking at more of a narrow focus and not multiple owners that are out there. And what I'm
The
hearing.
good thing about owning this, we're also gonna get the codes, so that we can customize this to our own needs. And that's one thing. So
If you're talking about multiple owners in this county or
Yes.
multiple owners?
No.
The county's gonna own the program.
But there will be multiple departments making separate purchases.
Right.
I think that's the root of your
what I
question.
It'd be like for the CUC package, but I want to tell you, Gary, JP Jackson is gonna get up and explain the CUC tech share side of that, so
Maybe we should
really,
do that.
it's the same company, they're two different packages, but they do interrelate together. and the implementation costs for some of those, what I'll call reach out and grab and do things, I believe are already basically included in the prices.
I would hope so.
But for that 700,000 figure, I'm pretty sure that's already included.
And maybe Judge Jackson, if you can go ahead and present, your piece and the dollar amounts, maybe a nice transition,
Well, I still don't have a full dollar amount either,
but an estimate.
we have a float. We're recommending that the JPs go with the CUC project, textual, share. I'm sorry, I had trouble talking all weekend. The JP package is a little bit different from all the others because the county clerks is just a clerk's package. The district courts is just a court's package. The JP is everything. So it is gonna be more expensive than anything else out there. Because it is a multifaceted piece. It has the clerk's package, it has the judge's package, it has the court management, the case management system. It's a total package of everything, where theirs is part of that, and the judges is part of that, and so I would assume that theirs would be cheaper if they were up to buying, and at this point they're not, so. Of all the, we started looking at these demos back in December of last year. We demoed 2 at that time. We chose one of those. We even made an off-site trip to look at that package in operation with the small committee. And as far as the JPs go, none of that's changed. That's still the case management and the package that we want to proceed with. And it's just not me talking. I've included all 4 of the judges in, and I've included all of their chief clerks in the demos of these products and all of that. So, and then we even looked at one more product here within the last couple of months, and that's fell through also. So we have the opportunity to buy from the CUC the same product that we wanted originally. So I told you the other day somewhere in the neighborhood of 400,000 to 500,000 for the JP. I figured it would be, in talking to them more since then, because we've started doing a more complete and thorough conversation with them to give them exactly what we want and exactly how many interfaces and all of this. I'd say it's gonna be more in the 500,000 to 600,000 range. So, but keep in mind, that's for 4 courts, and it's a package that's more than anybody else's package is going to be, because it includes so much in it.
And Jason, may I ask for you to maybe present the court in terms of, I'm looking for some strategic alignment of what's next? What are the other departments that are left? What's the vision from an IT to support this, that kind of thing?
Okay. Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
This project, I say project, this endeavor started out years ago in discussions. Okay, software that we've got, we all know is 30+ years old, et cetera. We put an RFP together, David and I did, all the departments last year. We put that out with the goal of having one vendor, one piece of software that would serve the needs of all the departments of the county. And after a year, obviously we'll get into this much later when we present the options, the final numbers. But the high level view is that we wanted something, one product, one vendor, et cetera. We did our shopping, we did our investigating, we did our vetting of the companies, we brought the companies here for demos. Some of us flew all different places around the state to go meet with these people. And the final determination of myself, and other elected officials, the LDAP committee, is that there's not a single vendor out there that's going to be able to serve the needs. Even if price was no option, there's not a vendor out there that can do everything that today that would serve the needs best of the prosecutor's offices, of the courts, of the clerks, okay, of everybody. And so the best solution that we've come up with is that the prosecutors will be looking at this package. There will be two purchases, ideally. Both of them will come from the same group, from the same CUC. There'll be two different products purchased from them. The products will integrate as though they're from one vendor, because they are. And then the next item on our agenda today is for us to look at rewriting the clerk's package in-house. Okay. And so that's the big picture. Without getting into the weeds, and there are a lot of details, and there's a lot of information to get to you.
What other departments would be left in terms of either purchasing or writing in-house?
This covers all the major stakeholders.
County clerk and district clerk right in-house.
And so I know part of the original RFP included collections, it included other departments. For some reason I'm remembering.
No, we were just looking for, the idea was if we could find one software package that had all these different features in it.
And that's initially what we were talking about. That's what threw me off, that we're initially speaking of one clearinghouse to encompass all of the entities and departments.
Well, I think that maybe was the initial talk, but then we formed a subcommittee based on the LDAP's decision to do that, of the key players that were really wanting to try to go and find something different. Because collections currently has their, she's not here, iPlow. You've got the auditor and the treasurer that they work out of Jim's. Is that correct, y'all? And then Sherry still, I don't know, at that point in time, it was voted to allow us to form the smaller subcommittee so that we could go out and, that was pretty much a unanimous decision for that to happen. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a few years, but, so these were gonna be the key players in the ones in the offices that were wanting to get something. Now, in reference to our judges, that once the clerks have something, then the judges will have, like a full access, a full view type system. If in fact, in the future, they wanna go to like an e-signature type deal where we're pushing data back and forth electronically, Jason felt like that was something, I'm probably getting into the weeds, but Jason felt like that was something that he could probably work out as well.
I think it's important to remember the software package that we're looking to replace and what that package serves today. That package doesn't serve collections, it doesn't serve auditors, it doesn't serve, it serves prosecutors' offices, JP courts, and the clerks, district clerk and county clerk. That's what we're looking to replace.
And that's the Babbage.
Correct. It's the one piece of software we're looking to replace.
One of the reasons the cost had kind of gone up from when we first talked is we've all sat down and done an implementation survey with CUC, like to identify those that wasn't included in that original price, that data extraction wasn't included, and those sort of things. So that's why the prices have gone up. The initial was a bare bones package with nothing really in it, I guess, although they're necessities as far as Scott and I are concerned, but I'm calling them for frills, but,
bells and whistles.
right, that's a better term. There are more bells and whistles on it that we need, so that's why the price of the texture thing has gone up from what it was before.
Okay, any questions?
Again, I'm gonna repeat, I'm not real comfortable moving forward with this without having Judge elect to voice her opinion, and I'd like to have that on record.
She's not in the audience today.
Well, it seems like there's a reason to postpone.
What are we
All
looking
we're
at?
doing is recommending for negotiations, because they're gonna come back with
So,
we're not gonna do anything.
She was in our last meeting when all of this got decided, and I have since talked to her on the phone for about 30 minutes about it. And I'll assure you, she's okay with us going ahead.
She's okay with 1.3 million right now, and that's just the start. That's what we're looking at right here.
It's two-thirds of the program. When we were looking before, it was $2.3 million or something, that's what the total.
Well, his figures are not all in either.
Right, I understand. That's what I'm saying, it's only two-thirds of the program, but the stuff before, 1.1 was never gonna touch the whole deal, ever.
So
And
let
at the end of
me,
the day, the other was like 2.3 or 2.5, I can't remember what it was. So,
I feel all right with it, but,
I'm getting mixed signals here because, I'm not calling anybody any names, but I've got different information from her.
so would it,
So are we going to postpone all of our decisions for a month and a half because our
No, I don't
judges are
think for a
here?
month and a half. I'd just like to have her at the next meeting, just so she can express herself at the next meeting.
and it's going,
Because this is a newly elected court right now, so I don't know why we have to wait.
Well, I think the dollar amount is the concern. I mean, it is, this is.
We're not spending any
but you
money
don't-
right
No,
now.
but I just mean in terms of earnest negotiation, and again, I go back to even the fire station 3 that we spoke about earlier, just having the framework of the dollar is important in mind. And I wouldn't disagree with your hesitancy about the dollar amount.
But I also think the framework of maybe just the contract negotiations, because you're not spending the money today. And so if they could actually start negotiating something, then, you know, the dollar amount would be brought back to you guys and spent. I mean, just food for thought.
Well, and the other thing is how long it took us to go through the MCAT contract.
Right.
I mean, we're still gonna have.
And we're gonna go through
this
that contract every bit as carefully
It may be 6
and
months.
searchingly as.
Or 3 months, or.
so the wording, Commissioner, in the, the agenda item is to, allow the board, the court to direct the purchase agencies to begin negotiations.
That's exactly what it says.
So
When will these figures be brought to us?
I suspect systematically will be brought, whenever there are numbers that are coming up that the court will have to, approve or move on. I don't think that it's gonna be something that's gonna be, I would think, and speak of that now.
My problem is being locked into something if we make a vote today.
you're not being locked into anything, you can say no when we come back with the contract and the final number.
I think the key again is to begin the negotiation. That's all the court is specifically stating for the committee to move on.
I'm gonna put a motion on the floor. I move that we follow the recommendation of the Local Data Advisory Board and direct the purchasing agent to begin negotiation with Texas Conference of Urban Counties on the Texas Sheriff Prosecutor and Texas Sheriff Courts. JPs. We moved to seconded. Any further discussion?
Who gave the second, I'm sorry.
Judge Ware.
Judge.
Question?
Okay.
And I don't have any problem with this being put on the motion and move and voting on it. But I want to be clear that, because you made a statement that you're not hearing systematically what you've heard from other individuals, what you're hearing now, and that's sort of concerning.
That was my reason for hesitation. But if this is not gonna lock us into anything, then I could see we'll be okay with it. I'll be fine.
All right.
We have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of authorizing the purchasing agent to begin negotiations with the Conference of Urban Counties, signify by raising your hand. Those opposed, same sign. Pass 4-1. Item 13, District Clerk and County Clerk to consider and act upon authorizing the expenditure of $82,000 District Clerk's Records Management and Technology Fund, GC 51.31 or 317,
1-2 for IT to hire a programmer to facilitate creation of an in-house solution for case management for district and county clerk. That's where we're
Okay, this is, and Julie, this is really the third part of the stool. When we initially started this, we thought we'd have an integrated system that would take the sheriff to the prosecutor to the clerk. It was obvious that the things we were looking at were not going to be easily integrated with this building. It was obvious that the prosecutor's needs with the Michael Morton Act were such that any of the existing softwares were not going to be able to fulfill that. And I guess Julie and I could have looked at a separate clerk's package with any of them, and, you know, although not all of the things that we wanted were there. And they ranged from over $3 million to $2 million. And so we didn't know how much was, if it was just a clerk's package, how much that would be. So then we started thinking about going in-house. And the thing I've always said is we have a great clerk's package in that it knows our complete business practices. We have all the reports we need. The bad thing is it's a 1988 package, and we have data. The good things, we've got data way back to 1988. The bad thing is still in the COBOL realm. So we talked to IT, and they came with a projected summary of things that they could do. And we just felt that met our needs better. They know that we need to adapt our 3 million images that are in TIFF format and PDF. They know we need to integrate with this flood of documents and cases that are coming over the internet already into a case management system. And that would be the first two priorities. And then from then, we would tweak the needs. And Julie and I just felt that to have it in-house would be what we want. I have about $355,000, I think, in records management funds that facilitate for several different items in records management. So I thought if I could pay for a programmer, at least for 1 year, that would facilitate the courts making sure that they're being addressed.
So I have a question. How is this position different than the position we just added this budget year? I think this was a recommendation of yours, Commissioner Kelly. Jason, you made a presentation that this was being vetted out, possibility of in-house design was being reviewed. And I think at the time you said, well, let's bring them in and let's start getting this new position acclimated. So we do have a new employee that started this budget year specifically to develop a package.
Well, among other things.
Among other things, but that was definitely part of the decision-making process during budget.
Correct, yes.
Was the vision that this FTE could absorb some of this building in-house. So how is this position different than that one?
Should all things come to fruition with the CUC packages, with pursuing this and all that, over the next 6 months, 8 months, whatever, we're going to be looking at doing 4 separate conversions for the JP courts, one for each court, and each court does everything completely different than the other courts. Okay? So 4 separate conversions there, and 1 for each of the prosecutors' packages. And integrating all of that together with whatever we build ourselves. And integrating all of that together with Spillman. The idea being that when you hook someone in at the jail, you type in John Smith, John Doe, it comes across in the prosecutor package, it comes across in the clerk, so that we don't re-enter information. One of the reasons that I pushed to get the additional developer position this past budget cycle is because we had a huge exposure. We have one guy, other than forgetting the new guy, we have one guy on our staff who knows anything at all about the one piece of software that runs all these offices. That obviously we want to look at replacing the program, whole program, $3 or $4, $5 million. We have one guy that knows anything at all about it, who is at retirement age, who is planning on retiring following this conversion and all that. And so getting a second person in, getting them up to speed, and having some sort of redundancy there in case of all the bad things that could happen. Okay? That was a big impetus behind getting someone. And he's doing good. He's learning things. You know, keep in mind, he's been here 60 days. Okay? Roland's been here for 25, 27 years.
I think the short answer to that maybe have just been, sorry, not.
No.
But I think it's time, as far as like, we want to make sure that if we do in fact go in-house, that we have somebody that it's not, you know, we'll work on it a few weeks this month, and then we'll skip a few months and we'll work on it a few weeks. I mean, I think Caroline was just being generous with her, you know, with her funds in order to try to really get this thing. If we're gonna do this, we gotta start running with it and get it done.
Yeah, and I certainly applaud you both for really bringing your funds to the table and being a part of the solution. So absolutely, I applaud you both for that, and thank you for being intentional about that presentation. Would it be a different strategy for us to just hire a consultant with these funds to bring someone in-house for 8 months, the 12 months that you spoke to, so that the county does not have to retain that FTE from year to year? Because I feel like a lot of the work would be up front, the design, the development, the deployment, and not to put a limit on the, you know, year one.
But remember also, he spoke to the point of having other than what you're speaking of being, as far as what they would actually be doing, the dedicated,
But we have an FTE already that has added to the redundancy. They're learning Roland's job, if you will, part of what Roland does, and getting acclimated. So we brought that position in this budget year.
The idea here is that for a period of time for this, we're guessing 18 months. That's completely ballpark, but 18 months to get something up and running. Is that during that time, we raise our head count through part of, she's in that fund, that sort of thing. But these would not be permanent positions. These would be for the duration of this project.
That's what I understood when we talked about it. I'm going to play a bit of a devil's advocate. Can you tell me where I'm wrong? And I think I know, but I'm okay. This other package that we just told, let's go get some negotiations. If that comes back and we say no, say the court votes no, does that hinder your process at all? Are we jumping ahead on this one?
Well, right now, there's not electronic criminal file. And I'll just put that, but that's gonna be within 6 months, I'd say.
If I can, let me jump in there. There's two big issues that are facing both the clerk's offices. One is when the state mandated e-filing. Okay? What's happening now is that documents are, you're out there, you're an attorney, you want to file a case, you go on to a website, you file a case, you put your documents in, it comes across to us. Because our software is as old as it is, it can't handle anything coming in electronically. So what the clerks are having to do is take this 300-page case and print it out. And all that manpower, that labor, everything that goes into that, and then come back and pretend that person just walked to the counter and filed a case. So you've got, and then, once the case is filed, log back into the e-filing site and do, basically they're having to do double work on all of this. And that's one reason that we're pushing to get something started so that we can get some relief to these guys.
We're just really trying to play, I think the whole county is, I mean, y'all know that. We are trying to play catch up with technology. And I think that just comes down to, and it's an unfortunate deal, it just comes down to funds. And it's not, there's really not a good scenario to make this all right now. But I think that that's what each office has gone in, and that's what we've each done. I said if I had to see another demo, I think I'm gonna throw up. But I think everybody has researched it out and has found the best solution for their office. And, you know, and a lot of it is, I mean, it's not fun for you commissioners to sit up here and go, okay, well, we've got to find this kind of money to try to, but we've got to, we're way behind in technology.
My biggest concern when we started this, and then we started looking at these separate deals, was are they all gonna talk to each other? Are we all gonna still be together? You know, I've talked to Jason about this in the past, and he assures me that especially if we own the codes for the source codes, that everything will be able to communicate. And so,
And I probably have a tarnished view, Commissioner, because when I joined the court, it was the wireless project, and we were assured at that time as well. So I absolutely probably have a tarnished perspective of the outcome of the commissioners not being involved in some level of detail to speak to it intelligently, and that was a significant dollar amount. So in all fairness, you know, I probably don't have rosy-colored lenses on through this process.
I mean, it's about having faith in anything that you're putting your money into, or just faith in general. And it's hard because you can't see it.
And we've seen the outcome of being bruised publicly and having to stand up and defend that amongst our taxpayers. So that's definitely where I'm coming from in the perspective of having to deal with the decision that it didn't work out well.
I can tell you, speaking with my guys, as far as putting together timelines and this sort of thing for revamping what we already have, my number one focus is that this does not end up on the front page of the paper. We're not going to have an embarrassment like what happened. I wasn't here for it, but.
But you heard of it, I'm sure.
I read the papers like everybody else. We are not going to have this part of this project end up on the front page.
I don't think that's anybody's goal. You know, like I said, I think it's just about having faith and what you know at this present time, and praying to God that it all works out. I mean, that's your.
So to one, you, unanimity, have confidence in what you present.
Sure.
You know, every one of the programs we looked at had problems and things that need to be fixed, which would cost more money than this. But we knew that our in-house people knew what we had more than someone else that had to learn what we have. And they led us through the board.
We're seizing on what Roland, I mean, he could probably tell you how our office operates better than we can on the Baptist level.
And Jason, you indicated a term on this position, that it wouldn't be forever, and I'm sure I have several questions, I just didn't realize this was on the agenda, so I'm trying to kind of hone in on that a little better. You indicated this is not a position the county would absorb forever.
No, this would be, the idea would be, and again, when we come back to bring the grand plan to you, and we have final numbers and all of it, but this is a piece of it, is that there will be a time frame where this position, maybe whatever will overlap for a period of time. When this project is implemented, those positions go away. Probably Roland retires at some point, we will not replace that. And so the headcount may go up for a period of time, for 18, I'm guessing 18 months. I keep saying that, but you know, for a period of time. Yeah, I know.
It's on the record now.
For a period of time, there will be an increase in headcount. And then, but with the full knowledge up front and the planning and the attention and everything else, that headcount will go back down. This is the plan.
okay, what you're basically asking us to do is to approve you providing $82,000 from the records management funds towards this extra IT budget program.
And Carrie, would this be enough for those funds to cover the position, including the salary, I'm assuming that, and fringe benefits for full-time?
Okay. Is there an action motion to be taken? I'll second that motion. Go ahead. Go ahead. Then move to second that we approve the expenditure of $82,000 from the district clerk's records management technology fund for an IT to hire programmer for the time to write this program.
18 months.
18 months. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Passes 5-0.
Jason, would you mind providing a copy of that summary that Caroline showed? Just, that'd be great. Yeah, no, that's okay. You can go ahead. Thank you. It may just be helpful.
Item 14 is executive session. Anything to go to executive session? No, sir. Our jail report, we have 482 total detainees. We have 90 females of that 482. We have none in Childress. County insurance items.
I do have two to speak about. I don't think they'll impact us financially, but I just want to make you aware. We did have one sheriff's vehicle that another car collided with it during a chase, but no one was hurt in that instance, and they did not have insurance, the car that hit us, and it was their fault, but we do have that uninsured motorist deductible, so we may have to pay the $250 deductible to get that vehicle fixed. Last week, another sheriff's vehicle was actually rear-ended. It was stopped at a stop sign and was just rear-ended. They do have insurance, and we are working through their insurance to get that resolved. The only reason I bring it to you is because that vehicle may be totaled, so we may be coming back with purchasing a new vehicle, so I just wanted to make this.
Is that a new vehicle?
It was a 2014, so.
It was a 2014.
Oh. I'm not for sure yet, but like I said, I wanted to make you aware in case I had it. And that's it.
We never do anything.
Change the color of the paint, maybe that's.
Was it your red one? If it was the red one, there's not much I can do.
Okay, just as a matter of clarification, Patrick, you're gonna be the point person in, coming up with some timelines of when we can meet with the committee?
Yes, sir.
Fire station and.
I'll talk to you, District Church, right after the meeting. Great, thank you. Our last item, number 17, is agenda items, to receive agenda items for the next Commissioners Court.
I would like to request the agreement for the parking from the local government corporation. It's scheduled to be on this court. I'd like to request it for the next date.
The executive session?
No, that's just a regular agenda item.
I'm sorry, I've got two
You're
conversations
fine.
going on here. That's already on my list.
Thank you.
Thank you for reminding me.
Is there anyone in the audience that had anything else they'd like to bring before the court at this time? Yes, would you like to come forward?
Sure. This is that happy announcement. On December the 11th, we're going to have the Potter County Employees Christmas Party. The county funds never pay for any of this. We are asking the department heads to donate toward the meat and paper goods. And the county employees have always supported the spirit of Christmas, the children who are under CPS in our court system. And so I have the cards, I got 100 of them, and this is what's left, because our employees are always so good to support this. So, to all of you, I'll take your money.
I bet you will.
That's what we've all been trying to do.
Personal money.
Take a check.
Is it good? Yeah.
Any other announcements? Julie, do you have any?
No announcements. Other than if you want your oaths and your statement of elected officer.
Okay. Being no further business, the meeting of the Potter County Commissioners Court is adjourned.